Hey guys, it's Chris here with this week's class. So today's class, we are going to do a 4-sheet wonder. And this one's going to be a little bit different, kind of how I stage it. I'm going to show you the cards. I'm going to show you the files. I'll show you everything right up front. And if you want to just zoom ahead and start creating, you are totally welcome to. I decided to incorporate a couple of techniques into this 4-sheet wonder. So you can do them or not do them. You can use the cards exactly the same way they are and just not do the elevated techniques with them. But there's a little bit of like thought process that I kind of wanted to go over with you onto how I prepped the whole thing to get started. And I think they turned out super cute. So I'm going to add my desk in here and we'll get started. Okay, so I did pick for this 4-sheet wonder the celebratory Sips Designer Series paper and then the Cheers and Sips stamp and die cut set. So that it was my starting point. So the whole workshop functions the same way it always does, right? It takes the 4 pieces of 6x6 paper and you cut them up according to the little cutting diagram we have right here. And that totally works exactly the way all of the other ones did. So I wanted to kind of show a few things with this workshop, and I'm going to show you the parts that you could very easily change up and use something completely different with them. So here we go. As far as the sentiments, I decided to use the more messages, which is new in May, right? It's got, I literally just dumped a whole bunch on my ground. So I have been obviously loving this die cut and stamp set. So you don't have to use this. There's lots of other sentiments you could swap out for this one. But I'm just going to show you, like I said, some of the prep steps before we get started. Here. And you could easily swap the sentiments, like I said, out for any sentiments that you have in your stash. You don't have to use this. I just thought it was kind of like a fun extra way. If you're a demonstrator, right, it exposes your customers to a fun new product that they might want themselves. So what I did to start off with is I did 1 sheet. And so if you're going to teach this, this is what I would do, right? I would stamp 1 sheet of the sentiments and let them die cut them out, and that's their starting point. And they could actually mix and match the sentiments if they don't like the way that I set them up. Or like I said, you could very easily swap them out. You could also just give them a blank set of these and they could pick sentiments from their stash. And I did use the new Secret Seas ink. I know on camera it's going to look black, but like I said, I also wanted to show something new, right? So it is like super dark blue. It's like this color here, right? But in ink form. So that's the first step we're going to do. I'm going to stamp this and die cut it out and set it aside. And then you will see these fun little cups or vases. They're kind of, it can be dual purpose to this stamp and die cut, right? So I wanted to add like a technique to the glasses. You don't have to. You can just cut them out of pattern paper or cardstock or whatever you want. You don't have to do this part, but we're going to do the technique where you add the ink onto the block, spray it with water, put it onto your cardstock and let it dry. And so I'm just going to show you where I did that, and then I'm actually going to do it a couple of times, and then I'm going to let it set it aside and let it dry, and I'm probably going to pause and come back. But so you can see it here. I also used it on the strawberries, the lemons, This cup here, the lemon, these two vases here, and this one also, and then the lemon here. I did some simple coloring with the tri-blends. Here on this one, I just literally did a little bit of ink blending, and then I stamped the ice cubes on top, and then added the fine tip glue to get the shiny surface. So that's something else that I did with this workshop. So it's on the ice cubes, the strawberry, the lemons, right? So if you want to add that technique, then you have to kind of let some of the stages dry. So I just wanted to draw that to your attention. And then the other thing I wanted to just talk about is I did use the dies. Let me just grab them all here. For the background, for each of the focal points, I think is the better way to say that, on each of the cards, I added the around it all dies. And I picked the two middle ones. They're referred to as number 6 and number 7 on the instructions. So I do believe it's 6 and 7 no matter which way you go. 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if it's inside you want to count from or outside, it doesn't really matter. These are the two middle sizes. And so from each of the accenting cardstocks, I cut one of the larger ones, 6 or 7, depending on how you wanted to count it, and then one of the smaller ones. And then I did emboss them. I used the embossing folder that is called, I'm totally drawing a blank. One moment, let me just pull it over up. Sorry, right? Some of the things are all still super new. So it's the Glass and Gardens embossing folders, and I just used the glass one, right? This one would be considered the gardens, and this one is the glass. And so for on each of the circles, I added the embossing. Like I said, if you have lots of embossing folders in your stash, you can use something else. This is just fun because it kind of is stronger on one side and then gets lighter and lighter, and then part of it can be blank. So you'll see, I'll do this prep step, but you'll see I added it onto each of them. Like I said, you could also totally leave that out. So for each of the accent colors, right, strawberry slush, cloud cover, and bubble bath, I cut one of each of the circles and I did emboss them, right? So you get 2, 4, and 6. And I kept them in the same order so it would kind of make sense as we went creating. So maybe I'll start with this step because we don't have to let anything dry, and I'll just show you and then we can move on. Okay, so you can see here, right, for card 1 and card 2, I've got strawberry slush. For card 3 and card 4, I've got bubble bath. And then for card 5 and 6, I did cloud cover. So I'm going to take each one of these and cut a 6 and a 7 and then emboss them. And that'll be my first prep step. Okay, I have my 6 circles. The other thing you will notice too is when I design the cards in sequential order, the largest circle is always first and then the smaller circle. So like I said, you can see my colors here, right? And so you can actually add both of these in this cute little embossing folder together, right? So I have my bigger one and my smaller one, and now I'll run each color through the embossing folder. And I wanted some of this plain on mine. You don't also have to, right? And there's lots of other embossing folders you could also use for that. So we're going to finish this step and then move on to the next. Okay, so I have all my circles cut. I'm going to just set those aside for right now. We can put the die cuts away. Okay, so before we go on and start our stamping, I will go over the colors I used. So we are going to use Memento too. On anything where I've done the watercolor technique, I'm going to use that. So here on the cups too, right? But the other colors that I've used are Petunia Pop, right? You can see them in the vases here. Secret Sea, like I said, we did all the sentiments. And you could very easily switch it up for Memento. Peach Pie, Strawberry Slush, Daffodil Delights, and Old Olive. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is I would stamp and die cut a set of sentiments. Right, so and like I said, if this is too much for you and you want to just use sentiments from your own stash, totally that works. So Secret Sea, like I said, it's a super deep blue. So you could also very easily switch this out for Memento. I can do it one more time, maybe just to make sure, but I actually think we're good. Going to close up my Secret Sea. So I do believe that is all that I use Secret Sea for. Okay, so now I will clean my stamp and die cut this, but I'll just show you. So the way this works, which is super fun, like I said, I have tons of them in my little container. So now you just add the die cut on top and run it through your machine, and you get all your sentiments all in once. But you can also just run this through with cardstock, right? And then you have a whole bunch of blank ones to use. You could use colored, or you could use white, and just have them always just sitting beside you and just look for something that's the right size. This has been a super fun one for me to play with. So I'm just going to clean this up and run this through the die cutting machine. And you can obviously see when we get to the point we're starting to assemble them, I'll show you which ones I used. But basically, it's the congratulations is right here. And then we used You're Simply Incredible, which is right here. Time to Celebrate. And then we have Hooray, which is right here, and Oh Happy Day, this kind of fun stretched circle oval shape. And then You're Absolutely the Best, which is right here. And then Happy Birthday, which is right in the middle there. Okay, so I have that now die cut. Okay, so also I just wanted to point out at this point, you could totally use this stamp set for your sentiments. This is the stamp set that I obviously used for my accents on my cards. So if you wanted to just use one stamp set, you could totally do this. Okay, so now we're going to have some fun. I have all of the stamps on my blocks already, but we're going to create our little backgrounds for our vases, glasses, etc. And then the fruit. So I'm going to move them out of the way a little bit. But so I need some petunia pop, right? Enough for these 2 vases or 3 vases. I need peach pie, and I used it here on these 2. And you can see the different looks you can get depending on like how much water you add, how much ink you have, etc. And that's what I kind of loved about the technique. So then I have strawberry slush, and I used it up for my strawberry pieces. And then this one here, and then I have Daffodil Delight, which I'll ink blend onto this glass, but we're going to use it for the lemons also. And like I said, so I'm going to create the watercolor look, and then also that has to dry, and I'll stamp the lemons on, and that has to dry. And then I'll add the glue onto it at that point. I did do all of my stamping for my greenery with Old Olive, so I'll go over that in a second though. And we will work on these watercolor pieces for the vases and accents. Okay, and like I said, there's lots of different ways that you could color the vases. I just thought this would be fun. So we'll start maybe with, well, why don't we start? Here's card number 1, right? Maybe I'll put them back in order, 3 and 4. So we have card number 1 and 2. So I'm going to need strawberry slush for my vase, and then for the strawberries. So really all I did was I took my block, I'm going to dip it in the strawberry slush. Okay. And you can spray it with a water bottle or the misting pens. And depending on the look you want, you could spray it more or less, right? So you could see here, I did not put much water on that one. So, and then I'm just going to flip it over, because on this, for the strawberries, I wanted a more like solid strawberry slush coloring. So I'm just going to let that do its thing. And maybe I'll just do another block of strawberry slush for my vase, and I'll show you. So I wanted more of this kind of look for this one. So I'm not going to add, maybe, I'm just going to add a little bit of ink, of water. Sorry, there is ink on there, obviously, right? And we get then the look that I used for this one versus the strawberries, right? So this, I used a lot of water, so it's going to take quite some time to dry. So I'm obviously going to stop the camera at certain points, right? So here is the strawberry slush look that I wanted for that vase, right? So now we can keep on going. Right, so I can be done, I think, with my strawberry slush. Okay, so the next ones we need are Daffodil Delight and Peach Pie. So again, for the lemons, I wanted a more solid look, right? So I will do that exact same thing. I'm going to move my cards out of the way because I don't obviously want them to get sprayed. Okay, so I have Daffodil Delight. This is for the lemons. You can also, at this point, if you want, flip your paper over onto your block if you're worried about it getting too messy. Well, you guys know I don't really worry too much about the mess. Okay, so here is for our lemons. And now I can do peach pie. And I do have 2 vases that are peach pie. Guess I just sprayed it myself. Okay, so I'm actually going to do one where I push the paper down onto the block so you can see that too. Like I said, it's just a different way of doing it. And every single time it's going to be slightly different. I could even take this, for example, and spray it again and use this to stamp again because I still have quite a bit of ink on here, so I'm just going to move some of it around. Right, and I get a completely different look. This one is, you guys just know, all about having fun. Okay, so then, oops, sorry. Our next color is Petunia Pop. And for Petunia Pop, I have 2 actually long vases and 1 of the cups, so I'll do it a couple of times. So this time I want more of that speckled look, right? This one has lots of ink, lots of water. This one has more of that speckled look. And I can actually do a third one. Okay, so these I'm going to set aside and let them dry. And on the directions for each card, it does actually say if you need to then stamp the vase or just cut it out. And I'll just show you the difference and a few of the things, and then I'll show you the other stamping that I actually did. I'll just set those aside. Okay, so I'm going to put these aside to dry. So you can see, for example, here, right, this one is stamped and die cut. So is this one. But this one is just die cut. I didn't stamp it. I just left it without that border. Same with these two, right? There's no stamping for the outer image. They're just die cut. This one is stamped and die cut. And then there's this fun little addition in this stamp that you can get some more texture. And so you can use it in other spots also. So it's this little piece here, and I thought, oh, well, let's use that and add some texture on top of our watercolored piece of paper too. So that's for card number 4. And then this is the last one, right? So, but you can see also I used the stamp set to create the details for the cards, right? Not just the cups, but right, the lemons. So right, all the lemons I'll stamp on that piece of Daffodil Delight when it's dry, and then the strawberries I'll do them all on the summer slush. But I wanted to show you the greenery. So I actually stamped them with Old Olive, and so this long piece I did 4 times. This short little piece, little set of leaves, I believe you need 3. The ones that look like the top of celery, I did 2 times. The little lavender small flower, I did 6 times. And then I did 2 base strawberries because I actually will stamp the strawberry on the strawberry slush and then fussy cut it out and add it on top of these. And then I'm just going to use some blends to color these all in. So I can actually do that right now. So this is all Old Olive stamping, and then I use Memento on that side. So for the blends, I actually used Old Olive and Berry Burst, not Petunia Pop. But this is such a small area. If you wanted to use Petunia Pop, I just wanted something just a little bit darker. And so for these pieces, I just lightly colored in the leaves. And really, it's like crazy quick, right? You're just adding a little bit of color. And you totally don't even have to. So I just stamp and then die cut. So I'll just color them in and then die cut. But if you work the other way, and this, I also want to visually show you this so that you could see. So I'll color in all 4 of those just quickly with the bullet tip. And then I just did with my brush end some like messy coloring, I like to call it. And then I just tapped in a little bit of the dark color in the middle of the leaves. and allowed the alcohol to kind of do its thing. And I actually didn't even, some of that, because it's so small, I didn't even really go over. And then the celery ones, which you can see right here, I did the same thing. I just kind of, because the leaves already are kind of like have that messy look. And then same thing, I'll just tap in a little bit of the darker color. This one I probably will go back and blend, but I'll give it a second yet. And then, so for the little flowers, I just really quickly drew in their leaves and then added the purple with the berry burst. But you could see, because this is so small, you're not really blending. And then the strawberries, the same thing. I just added some green with the old olive to the tops. And like I said, you could also just color the bottoms if you would prefer. So that is the next step. So I'll finish coloring these and die cutting them and let those other pieces dry, and then I'll come back. Okay, so I've let everything dry. I ran some errands, I had my lunch, and now I'm back. I have stamped on the pieces that needed stamping, and I've die cut them. By following the directions, you can very easily figure out anything that I didn't like cut live. But I was just going to show you the strawberry because I had extra strawberries that I had done beforehand. So I'm going to use those as I assemble the cards. But considering the first one has the strawberry, I thought I would show you how I did that. So I have die cut the strawberry. And then here you can see on the watercolor version, right, I just stamped my background. The scissors got buried here, right? And then I just fussy cut out my strawberries. And then I'm going to add it to the other piece. So it's just paper piercing, but we just created our own paper, really, is all I kind of wanted to show you. So then we glued this together. Okay, and then give it a second to dry. But then I would run it through my die cutting machine, and then I did add the, there you go, you can see the glue is dried on top of this. So this one is dried and ready to go. My lemons might still be a little bit wet, so I'm going to try and be very careful with them still. Because there was just kind of, I needed to make some more. Now, not all the lemons did I add the glue to, so you could pick and choose and you don't have to do that part. But now literally, right, I've cut my pieces using the cutting guide. And so now all I have to do is assemble my cards. So like I said, right, the bigger one is always first, and then the smaller one is second. Here are my pieces inside here. So most of you will not need to watch me assemble my cards. You have everything you need to get started, but if you would like to stay here, you are welcome to. I think that is upside down. We're going to set that aside for the moment. So, like I said, you guys know the deal with 4Sheet Wonders, but for whoever maybe has not done a 4Sheet Wonder before, basically I'm taking 4 sheets of paper and we are cutting them up. It was kind of born out of the same concept as like a 1-sheet wonder, right? That's one piece of 12 by 12 paper and you make X amount of cards with it. Same kind of thing, but these are all 6 by 6 pieces of paper. Okay, so there's our summer splash, and then this is going to go about here. I'm not committing to that. I can move it around if I need to. I've not pushed down hard on it. So we're going to add some dimensionals to our cup. See, and I love that each of them turned out slightly different. So I can't. And like I said, these are completely adaptable to, excuse me, sorry. Oh, I was going to try and mute the camera, but I did not get there in time. Sorry about that. That each cup is like slightly different. I think it's kind of fun. Oh, I should have tucked this in underneath first, but so I didn't. I can actually just cut this one and just tuck in the top. Okay, and then I have a strawberry for down below. And like I said, my lemon is still wet, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to add my dimensional here on my card. And then I'm going to add my lemon. I'm just going to tuck it in underneath, and the rest will just dry in place. Okay, and then for embellishments, I used the new 2025 to 2027 in color flat pearls, and I love these. So, and I love that they did like a flat embellishment for this year. Or flatter, I guess. Okay, so there we go, card number 1. Now I'm, like I said, I'm going to be gentle because this glue is not dry on there yet. So that's card number 1. So now we're going to do card number 2. My card base. My pieces cut according to my cutting guide. And these are fun to, in lots of instances, if you wanted to switch it up, you could totally flip the side of the paper that you use because everything kind of coordinates, right? If you wanted kind of a different look, totally just flip your paper over. Okay, and so for this one, same thing. My lemon is not dry, so we're going to do the other parts first. So I'm going to add a little adhesive to the top of my vase here, and then I can kind of just tack my plants how I want them. And there's just enough. This one I'm going to put in front of. Actually, I'm going to cut this one off too a little bit. Okay. And I can add dimensionals. And part of my dimensionals too will actually hold these in place if they would want to shift at all. And I'm just strategically adding them so that they will be hidden after. And then there's adhesive on the one side and then dimensionals on the far side. I can pop my dimensional down. My little leaves. And then my embellishments. There we go. There's card number 2. And now we'll move on to card number 3. I just need to make sure I didn't get them out of order. This piece goes right on the edge. Now my bubble bath piece. And this lemon I didn't actually add shine to, so it is not wet. Same thing, I can add a little bit of adhesive to the top of my glass or vase, however you want to look at it, and just attach my, it's actually too low, so I'm going to attach my dimensionals to secure it. There we go. We have time to celebrate. This little tiny green piece here. And then my little flower. And the cloud cover, flat gems, the ones I picked for this one. So here we go, card number 3. Okay, so card number 4, right? We had our background that we created with that fun extra layer of texture. There's our card base. Our smaller bubble bath circle, wonky circle. You know me, I love the wonky shapes. Okay, and this I actually put down flat. And we have 2 sentiments on this one. Oh, happy day. I put down flat. I just kind of tucked it right in there like that. These you could also cut if you can't tuck them in underneath. I'm trying to make, because the paper is that pretty purple flower in the background too, I'm just having a little bit, making sure that a little bit of the leaf pokes up. Just holding my adhesive till it sets, and I'll add some dimensionals onto my sentiment. Decide where I'm going to put this, and I'm not going to tack it down. I'm going to just push my lemon underneath. And this one too, I didn't add shine to. You can add shine to at the end if that's easier for you. So I'll show you how I could do that. We'll just pretend like I had shine on this one. I'm just going to cut my stem off. And tuck it down like that. Okay, I'll move my gems around because then you can't see where I am, because I'd be putting it right on top of the glue. So this is the fine tip glue pen, and it works kind of the same as the liquid glass, but it does have like quite a fine needle on it. So I just laid it on where I want it shiny, and I'll let that dry. So like I said, I will just, and the nice thing about it is, well, so it's more liquid, so you don't get the same issues with the cap that you sometimes had happen with the liquid glass. So like I said, we're gonna move our embellishments just a little bit on this one because that is wet. Okay, so there's card number 4. And now we have card number 5. We're getting there. So this one, there's no stamping of the outline of the vases. I liked them just plain without the black outline for this one. I know I've got wet stuff, so I'm trying not to. So for both of these, I'm going to add a little adhesive across the top of them, and then I can tuck my greenery behind. So this is the one that kind of looks like the celery leaves. And this one with the peach pie, I did add dimensionals. This one I did not. Okay, I need some more adhesive on here. Tuck these in. because I love these pearls. I know I've said it before, but every time I look at them, I think the same thing. I love them. Okay, so there's card number 5. And so now we just have this last one as I send the papers flying. Okay, so here are our pieces. So we did this one a little bit different because I wanted to give you like kind of lots of different options. And like I said, you're more than welcome to also just color them. So, but for this one, I just did a little bit of ink blending into the background here. I'm just going to assemble this card first and then set it aside, and I'll do the ink blending on my mat here. And then on the ice cubes, I did add also some glue, and I didn't do that yet because I'll do my ink blending first. But I'll just get my card all ready. Okay, I cut those wrong, as you saw. So they are correct now. So they're 3 3/4, not 4 1/4. But they are correct on your guide. Okay, and then this piece we're just going to dovetail it. And then I'll do my ink blending and finish this one up. So you could use, for sure, one of the other techniques that we used on one of the other cards for this one, if you didn't want to do the ink blending. But so I just did a little bit of Strawberry Slush and Daffodil Delight on these two. I'm just going to grab a scrap piece of paper here. So I'm just taking quite a bit of the color off. I just wanted it kind of nice and light in the background there. And now I will add the glue on top, but I'm going to do that at the very end because you obviously don't want to wait for it to dry. There we go. So I'm going to add this one flat. And this one I'll pop up on dimensionals. My strawberry went flying, right? But I have one of those shiny strawberries and our sentiment. Okay, so same thing, right? The other lemons are still wet. So I am going to add a little bit of glue here. And I'm going to put, they're almost dry now, but not quite. So it's actually super close. And then same thing, I'm just going to add some mini dimensionals here, and I'll take the backing off, and then I added the lemon in front. Our gems. Okay, so then, right, same thing. I'll just take my glue and add it to my ice cubes. There we go. And I love the way that they look on the card. And like I said, I wanted to kind of incorporate a couple of different techniques that you could use with the same stamp set in case you want to do a few different things, right? So here are our 6 cards for our 4-sheet wonder. And kind of fun. So one of the advantages of actually being able to record and add the classes up is you could kind of see the techniques in real time, right? Like that's super hard to do with a live class, right? Where we have to let something dry. You'd have to see it more in stages, but it was actually, I'm actually able to do it closer to in real time. So this is what your documents will look like, right? So there's the front page with the directions. I just talked about some of the prep things that I did, like the more messages, how I cut one out for everybody. Then there's your cutting guide, and then the directions. I tried to add as much detail as I thought you would need, but you guys are very familiar with how to use the 4-sheet wonder. I do try and make them kind of like easy, but a little bit elevated. So I will have everything uploaded and in the Google Drive when the class goes live. And so I hope you guys have enjoyed 4-sheet wonder card workshop number 10. And I hope you guys all have an awesome day. If you have any questions, always feel free to ask. Just drop them into the comments below and I'll come back and answer them as soon as possible. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.